Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you clear to land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in tight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
Hello. welcome everybody. Excuse me. I am super pleased to tell you that yet again we've managed to somehow pull together another cracking show for you tonight. Or at least I think it's going to be a cracking show. So I look forward to that. We've got some news of a shock departure that happened this week. So we'll bring you some bit of an update on that. There's some news from Garmin, some kind of very spendy news and some not so spendy news from Garmin. So something for everybody there. Plus a whole bunch of other stuff. Waiting in the green room, I can see Martin Robinson from AOPA. We'll be talking to him later about some of the biggest challenges that face us all in general aviation and just what we could do about them. And the other thing, before we move on, you would have noticed that Ed is not here. He's having a well-earned week off, although I suspect he's probably lurking somewhere, just keep making sure we keep the standards up. And we have Annabelle Cook standing in for him as our stunt Ed. Before we go on, big congratulations to Annabelle, whose aeroplane, Big Red, finally took to the skies after what is and there's Annabelle, Graham, and Simon Wilson there in the forward. Working in order. It's Annabelle, Simon Wilson, and Graham in the background, and of course, Big Red. So just so there's no confusion there. It's a long story, but wait, it may or may not become revealed at some stage to everybody. I guess it depends on whether Annabelle wants to put it all behind her and forget it, or whether there are people with funny wigs involved. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about that at some point in the.
That's not me. This is all real.
This is all real. Yeah, absolutely. So one other thing before we move on to the next bit, please do us a favour. Don't forget, click like, comment, subscribe. If you share the link, so with people who aren't here watching it live, and if you're watching on catch up, don't forget to comment as well. It's not just about the live comments. Right. Big thanks to SkyDemon, our sponsors. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Quick question for you in advance. How many of you out there use GAFFORs or I call them GAFFORs. Anyone know what they are? Well, watch this video because they're bloody good, I would say. And very useful if you happen to be flying to Friedrichshafen for Aero anytime soon. So here you go with the SkyDemon. There's a bunch of information packed into this one. Well worth a good look. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Rob from SkyDemon, and here's another top tip.
GAFFOR are useful weather forecasts that are focused on a particular route or area and are designed to give a quick view of whether a flight through that route or area is go or no-go based on cloud ceiling and forward visibility. They're produced by weather authorities in the countries that use them. Turn GAFFOR on from the weather menu like this, and you should immediately see the bulletins appear as routes in Switzerland and Austria and some other neighbouring countries. The forecasts cover 6 hours and are depicted with 3 boxes covering 2 hours each. Each box has a letter that describes the state of the route: open, difficult, marginal and closed. A little black triangle here marks the current time, so you can see here that we're about halfway through this box. Of course, you can open the What's Here menu to see the forecast in detail, including the reference altitude for the route, which is usually the highest terrain elevation. In Germany, GAFFOR bulletins are given for areas instead of routes, but they work just the same, except there is also a clear state, which means there's no cloud forecast at all. You can see the colours around the borders of each subdivided area and the forecast box in the middle. And again, you can open the What's Here menu to see the forecast in detail. When you go to the Animate tool to see how the weather forecast changes over time, you'll see the GAFFOR depictions change their colours as the little black triangle moves across the top of the forecast boxes. You can use a horizontal swipe down here like this to go backwards and forwards in time.
For more information, check out our website www.skydemon.aero.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's bloody brilliant. Bloody brilliant. Particularly some of the kind of the well-known routes in the mountainous areas. It's bloody useful. And it's packed full of really good stuff. It really is. Well worth a couple of watches.
Yeah,
anyway.
need to make the little black triangle a tiny bit bigger though, because I wasn't the only one that was looking at my screen going, "There's a black triangle."
No, that's because normally you don't look at it through a YouTube video as well. So it's much easier when you're looking at it on your iPad in real life. As it
Paul
were.
Fraser Benison makes a good point quickly. Come on, Met Office, get with it. As Dave White says, not in the UK, but over in foreign, they're awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, was it Dave White who also said that Ed's looking well tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Well, that's Gaffles. Let's stick with Gaffles, I think. But if we are staying in the UK, the week has been positively glorious for the weather. I don't know about you guys. I've been sat in the office looking very wistfully out of the window. But will it hold for the weekend? Let's find out with our tame Met Geek.
Hi everyone, sorry I can't be with you live this evening, but I hope that you've been able to get out flying over the last couple of days with the glorious weather that's been affecting many parts of the country. It is going to be all change as we get into this weekend. There is some flyable weather around, but you've got to be really careful with this weekend. Let me show you why. This is the forecast for tomorrow, for Friday. Still got a southeasterly flow across the country, quite breezy. We're looking at gusts probably of 20 to 25 knots in some exposed areas. Notice the fronts down to the south. They're gradually moving northwards, bringing outbreaks of rain across many parts of Ireland, into parts of Wales, into southwest England. And that process of moving northwards will continue into the afternoon and evening, eventually bringing some showers into central and southern parts of England, as well as central parts of Scotland. Typical bases in those areas around 2,000 to 3,000 feet, but probably becoming misty and murky across southwest England, across central parts of Ireland, across central parts of Wales and central parts of Scotland as that deterioration takes place. Elsewhere, we've got bases of above 3,000 to 4,000 feet, tops probably about 8,000 feet. Now, Saturday, this is not really telling the whole story. This is Saturday morning, rain across much of Scotland, probably across much of Ireland into northwestern parts of England. Bases typically around 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Tops are going to be up at around about 15,000 feet, but much lower bases associated with this front in western Scotland and western Ireland. You see that here on the cloud forecast chart with those red colours. Now, what is going to happen is that the air is quite unstable, and I think that through the afternoon we're going to find an area of some quite hefty showers possibly forming through the Midlands, southern England, through parts of Wales, and then eventually into eastern England. The far southwest of England may see them as well, and they could become thundery. Bases of 1,000 to 3,000 feet, tops getting up to between 15 and potentially 25,000 feet, but it's hit and miss as to when and where those things go off. So very careful watch of the taps and Form 215 and the gamuts, I think, through the course of this weekend. Do not believe your apps this weekend, okay? Because they are going to try and pick out individual shower areas, and it just isn't going to work. You need to rely on the taps and 214, 215 and the gamuts through this weekend. Now, Sunday, lots of cloud around on Sunday. You see it here on the cloud ceiling forecast. So much cloud around. Bases typically 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Tops up at around 10 to 15,000 feet. Again, this is not telling the whole story when you look at this chart, because it looks like there's not that much precipitation. But there will be cloud. There will be outbreaks of rain across the Midlands, Wales and southern parts of England. Further rain affecting northeastern parts of England, and more rain associated with the front across western Scotland and eastern Ireland. So local flying only, it looks like, on Sunday. Quite a murky day as well for many of us through the course of Sunday. So have I driven the message home there? Be really careful this weekend. Don't just look at it and think, oh, I'll go flying because the weather's good now. Do expect significant and quite quick changes as we go through both Saturday and Sunday. That's not to say absolutely do not fly. I'm just saying just be very, very careful with the forecast. Don't take any risks with it. Now, all of my upcoming aviation weather school courses are full. I've got one running at the moment, and I'm just about to try and work out some new dates. But if you can't wait to learn more about weather, go to weatherschool.co.uk and take my pilot's guide to SKUTs. You will not look back. It's for all pilots, whatever experience, and it will teach you so much about weather, about making predictions for wherever you are and wherever you're going flying. You'll be able to predict cloud bases, cloud tops, winds, loads more beside. Go and have a look at that now. Right, I'll leave you with that for now. I've whizzed on for long enough. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Bye for now.
No wonder he sent a video.
I was going to say, when he sends a video, you know that there's some bad news, really. If Simon's like, I'll be there live, you can plan on Cav OK. Right, moving on to the news. So I'm leading off the news tonight. And the first story is a bit of a shock last week. That all of a sudden we discovered that Mr. Microlight, Rob Hughes, here he is, sufficiently unflattering picture for you there, Rob. Not intentionally, it's just the one we have. Is no longer the chief executive of the BMAA. Bit of a surprise. Rob has, I should say, a great reputation. Did a huge amount of good things at the BMAA. There's a thread on the forum with lots of platitudes towards Rob, credited with bringing the 600 kilogram microlight. I'm sure not all entirely on his own, but with everybody else into the country. So lots of good things. And Rob's no longer there. We kind of spoke to Rob, and he said, "Look, I've been CEO for 3.5 years. I've got some other things I want to do, and some new pastures. I'm going to finish building the Silence Twister that I've started. Just look out for some good and positive aviation news coming from me at some stage over the next 12 months. So who knows what that will be." But anyway, so I think at this time we need to say, Rob, thanks for everything you've done. And if anyone fancies the job, the BMAA are hiring. The ad went up. It's on their website under SITSVAC or whatever they call it. But if you fancy that job, go take a look, see what you need to do.
Big shoes to fill there.
Big shoes to fill indeed.
Yeah.
600 kilo shoes, not just 450 kilos, 600.
Yes. So second story is about Group Captain John Paddy Hemingway, who passed away earlier this week at the fantastic age of 105. Paddy, is the RAF call him Paddy, so I feel happy calling him that. He joined the RAF from Ireland at the age of 19 at the start of World War II, and he provided fighter cover during the Battle of France as British troops retreated to Dunkirk. During that, he was hit by anti-aircraft fire and had to make a forced landing in his Hurricane and made it back to the UK, or England as we said then. He was part of 85 Squadron, which is right in the front line of defending the UK during the Battle of Britain in 1940, and twice in 1 month, August 1940, had to bail out after the aircraft was damaged during dogfights. In 1941, not surprisingly, in a way, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. But he was on his way to London to meet the King to get his medal when the Blenheim aircraft he was flying in crashed on takeoff. So another thing he survived. Later that year, he had to bail out at night at 600 feet. The parachute failed to open properly, and he was saved. He had a charmed life. He was saved by landing in a tree. That isn't the end of it. Finally, in 1945, really towards the end of the war, he had to bail out a fourth time when his Spitfire was hit while attacking enemy forces in Ravenna in Italy. He made contact with local Italian partisans and made his way back to his squadron. Yeah, didn't just take a few days off in bed. Went back to his squadron. Hell of a chap.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean,
It is amazing.
Yeah.
You think if one person bailed out, if I bailed out at night at 600 feet and survived by the military, I would be dining out on that for the rest of my life, let alone all that other stuff.
I'd probably take up knitting.
I'd be buying lottery tickets every day. Wow. R.I.P. Paddy Hemingway, 105. Quite old age indeed. Johnny.
Yeah, so Pilatus, they've brought out what they're calling the most advanced single ever, and that's the PC-12 Pro. And it's the first certified airplane to have a Garmin G3000 Prime integrated flight deck. And what that means, basically, is the PC-12 Pro is equipped with all of Garmin's safety functions. So we've got auto land, smart glide, electronic stability, emergency descent mode, and Garmin's auto throttle. I think we've got a quick, also just uploaded a picture of the cockpit, which is becoming a bit sort of electric car-like. There's not many buttons and lots of touch screens everywhere, which some people might love. others might hate. So the advanced cockpit environment, which is what this is all called, is the Garmin G3000 Prime, and it's got all these sort of cursor controls, a bit like airliners have got, synthetic-based vision, and it's basically meant to be a spectacular cockpit to work in with the big 3 multifunction displays, and loads of, apparently 4 times the RAM of existing displays.
Wow.
Cool. That's so exciting.
I bet they're posting about that pilot's lounge, aren't they, mate? You see my RAM, 4 times bigger than yours.
And it's powered by the usual PT6. So yeah, it's already certified, and they're going to start delivering them in the 4th quarter of this year. So that's the expensive Garmin news. Don't actually have a price for it, but clearly it's expensive. But on the other end of the spectrum, Garmin have just launched their first carbon monoxide detector. So the GCO14 is a remote mounted sensor, so it works with things like GTN XI navigators, GI 275s, and TXI displays, and you can view the current CO level. You can get audio, visual alerts and warnings, as well as sort of a carbon monoxide threshold level that you can set, and it's all going to be connected through the audio panel as well. So this fits behind whatever instrument you've got via a 4-pin connector, and it's got a FAA TSO, and that will be available in the next few months, Q2 2025, for $550.
Sounds like a bargain compared to a PC. So I must admit, most aircraft are at the PC-12 price, which is, I don't know, if I remember rightly, 4 million plus or something. We'd go like, boring, that's another bizjet that looks like every other bloody bizjet. But you got, I mean, I reckon for most of us, the PC-12 is a pretty like that's our kind of apex single engine aircraft, isn't it? Alongside maybe the T-bin, but the PC-12's got a bit more room.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine there's many GA pilots who wouldn't fancy a day hauling a PC-12 around.
No.
So come on, Orions, the Pilatus dealer at Biggin Hill. Let's have a play with the PC-12. I'm sure they would actually if we asked. But anyway, but enough of that.
Hang on a minute, we've got a comment.
We've got a comment. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
What's the betting? He'll try and win Fancy Hangar, even off.
Well, I was going to. I can guarantee you that tonight. I think I can guarantee that Ed will not be. It will not be an Ed wins night tonight. So. Right then, Annabelle.
Yeah. Interestingly, seeing as I'm stumped, Ed, the all-party parliamentary group is back, but the general has been dropped, and it is now the APPG for aviation. It is chaired by Tim Rocker, the MP for Macclesfield, and there are 3 vice chairs. We have Lord Davies of Gower, who was appointed as the UK's first general aviation champion in 2018 and who is a council member of the Air League. There's Calvin Bailey MP, an ex-RAF wing commander, and Lord Kirkhope of Harrogate, who holds a PPL and is a former director of Newcastle Airport. There are working groups for airfields, airspace, sustainability, heritage, and more, including a new air shows and air displays working group. And you can read more about this in the Flyer news story. I'm just going to pop a link in the chat. Right. So, yeah, I think that's quite a strong group of people, actually. It's a nice mix.
I think I saw something about he couldn't attend the first meeting or something, but talking about the display stuff. I think Paul Bonham is an advisor or part of it in some way, shape or form. I don't really know exactly what, but I saw the Bonham name associated with it, so that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah. So Eagle Scott Airfield. This isn't a terribly bad news story, but it is a news story. Eagle Scott Airfield is facing the fact that a neighbouring farmer has applied for planning permission to build a free-range chicken egg-laying unit. Not a problem, you might think, but it's very close to the threshold of Eagle Scott's main runway. You can see in this illustration here, that's the proposed location for the chicken run, the chicken shed, and the main runway is just to its left. Obviously, there's a potential for bird strikes, increased bird strikes, and there's been solid support from across GA objecting to the proposal. I have to say, though, there's also been support among some pilots for the farmer involved. And you can see the dilemma here. Farmers have a hard enough time making a good business, but equally, you don't want to have added risks next to an airfield. I mean, just reading all the documents involved with the planning application and what people have said and the various comments, it does seem that this could have been sorted out with a simple conversation much earlier in the process. Shift the egg shed to the other side of the field. As simple as that. It would have been an easy process. But so that hasn't happened, and now it's a job of North Devon Council to make a decision here. Very difficult decision.
There's a few comments about bird strikes and chickens. I think the reason that they're talking about that is that it'll be good roosting ground for other birds that will attract other birds to the areas. It's not the chickens that are directly that will be potentially a problem.
No.
I did wonder when Dave said it.
Well, the chickens are, because they're free range, roosting outside and being fed outside, so other birds will come and
nick their food.
And also probably take a few chickens as well.
Yeah, a few wood kites.
The chickens will be there going, "Get off my farm!"
Yeah.
That's a very good chicken impression. Do it again.
Yeah, sorry, it's all I can manage. Anyway, right. The story, the bad luck story of Gloucester continues, I think.
Yeah, so there was Gloucester was shut for a few hours, or for the rest of the day after there was an accident on the 18th. A Rutan Cozy had an accident just short of the runway, but the resulting factor is that the ILS was damaged, I think. So there are currently there's no ILS for runway, I think 27. So obviously that just impacts an airfield that's currently under some sort of air traffic issues anyway, with the recent imposition of movement restrictions and that kind of thing. So it's not a good thing for Gloucester, obviously. Not that it was their fault, but it's just a bit of bad luck.
Absolutely, bit of bad luck. Yes, indeed. I've just got a couple of quick stories to wrap up the news here. The first one's breaking news that came out today. If you're an LAA member, you may already know about this, but there's from April the 15th, there's a new way, an online way of getting your permit renewal done. So you should be able to jump up online, choose your inspector, get it inspected, and everything should happen in the ether smoothly and everything else. You'll be able, if you don't like the idea of modern technology, then you've got a month from April 15th till May the 15th in which you can still renew your permit in the old-fashioned way, but otherwise it's going to be online, as it should be. These things seem to be pretty slick once they're bedded in, so fingers crossed that doesn't take too long. And then finally, tomorrow night, we've got the Pilot Careers Live Professional Flight Training Awards taking place at Sofitel on the eve of Pilot Careers Live itself, which will obviously take place on Saturday. So lots of categories, lots of people there who've had nominations, and some winners that will be announced tomorrow. So that'll be the inaugural awards. I've kind of been doing these shows for about 30 years, believe it or not. And kind of felt it was about time we had some awards to celebrate the best in the industry. So that's kicking off tomorrow night. So I look forward to that. I will be making a speech, but it will be very, very short, you'll be pleased to hear. So I'll be getting off and doing some other stuff after that. Right.
A couple of comments I need to go through. Firstly, sorry, Ed. It's a puffer cozy, not a Rutan. And second, Mike Roberts survived his QXD today. Well done.
Well done, Michael.
Good job.
Well done. It was a lovely day today, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Yeah. It was one of the, I looked out this. It was, my day was taken up with other things, but it looked bloody lovely. Right, Annabelle.
Yeah, Michael, when you've got your license, you can become a club member and you can take advantage of all the free landings. So this month we have Wickham, Spanhoe, Raffith, East and Easter. And if you're already planning ahead to April, they are going to be Fife, Straven, Cardiff and Slate. And I counted on my fingers, and I don't have 54 fingers, so I had to borrow a few hands, but I reckon that £54 that most people would save if they use all of those in April, and that would more than cover your annual membership. So what are you waiting for? If you're not a member, get on, join. As well as all those, if you missed it like I did this week, you can catch up with the March exclusive Fly Club webinar with Steve Morley on spring cleaning your flying. We also have on catch up recently, Ed Bellamy joined us to talk about piston engine icing, and Mark Greenfield gave us some advice for making forced landings. And there's a shed load of other webinars, all available via the members dashboard.
Absolutely. And I think there must be something, I can't remember, was it 48? Was it maybe not that many? But there's just loads and loads of webinars that members can sit and watch at their leisure and watch through again. And even there's a webinar from the pilot who flew Big Red after its long hibernation.
Cy Wilson, yeah, he did one on tailwheel handling.
He did one on tailwheel handling. A very good one it was too. Absolutely. Right. The time has come, I think, looking at my thing, to bring on Martin Robinson. So we'll have the usual little move things around. There you go, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Dave. He's going to lead it on, and then we'll all jump in and bring some questions and comments and stuff with it. So,
right. So Martin Robinson, in case you've never heard of Martin, can't believe that, but he's CEO of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association in the UK. He also got quite a footprint across Europe as well. You can see you go to a lot of the European events. So Martin's joining us tonight to talk about some of the many issues facing general aviation these days. The first one we're going to kick off with is one of the big ones. It's the challenges to airfields around the UK. The latest being Nottingham City Airport, which is set to close in June. But there are many others. The big question is, what can be done to protect our airfields, apart from the obvious, which is don't sell your land to a developer? So what do you think could be done, Martin?
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dave, and good evening, everybody. Well, let me start with Nottingham, because over the last few days, I've been engaging with an individual up there by the name of Sarah Deacon. You might have come across that name. And Sarah recently organised for ITN News to actually go to the aerodrome and talk to some of the local residents about why they want to keep the aerodrome open. And when I spoke to Sarah, the thing that struck me was when she said, "I'm not a pilot, I'm a nurse." And here we have a situation where you have local people who are not anti the aerodrome, they are pro the aerodrome. But then when I look at the support coming from the GA community, it's pretty poor. So if the GA community doesn't support the airfield, then the people who want to sell it will say, hey, look, the aviators don't want it. They're not shouting about it. So at the moment, I'm giving a shout out for Sarah because she's got a Just Giving page at the moment, which you can find online, trying to raise about $3,500. AOPA is going to give some money to them as well so that they can get some legal and planning work done in order to try and prevent the airfield from being sold. And when you look at some of the things that can be done, because it is a pressing issue, which is driven by sort of current economics and pressure from government to develop land for housing and other regulatory changes, there are sort of planning protections that exist, and I did a bit of sort of revision on this before coming online, and that is to say that the National Planning Policy Framework in paragraph 106 recognises the importance of GA aerodromes, requiring decision makers to support their retention, but it's only guidance. It's not law, but we should be pointing to this paragraph when talking to local authorities. And one of the things that we've suggested over many years is that before an aerodrome is closed, there should be identified within the local area a new location for a new aerodrome. So if you want to close A, you can only close A when you've got B almost ready to go. They do that in other parts of Europe, Germany, for example. The Town and Country Planning Act of 1990, planning permission is required for redevelopment. So if an aerodrome has lawful aviation use, change of use can be contested. But all of these things cost money, and you need people with the background, whether they're local planners or lawyers, to get involved here, and it costs money. Local and neighbourhood plans. GA stakeholders can engage with local authorities to ensure aerodromes are designated as strategic assets. And, we should be doing this around the country, getting pilots that use aerodromes to try and get into their local authorities and register aerodromes as strategic assets. The Airports Act of 1986 and the Civil Aviation Act of 2012 provide legal backing for aerodromes as part of a national aviation network. Now, you mentioned Byron Davis earlier on, and I know Byron very well, and they did some work which was to look at a strategic network of airfields, and it never really got anywhere, and nor did the APPG on GAAC get very far with the last government, which, as you will recall, the head of the Department for Transport at that time was a very pro-GA individual, Grant Shapps, who owns his own aeroplane. So I'm a little bit worried that now we've got a government that is not pro-aviation full stop, just how much effort will be required to try and get this government to look at the issues that these aerodromes are facing and come up with some form of protection for these aerodromes. They are community assets, and under the Localism Act of 2011, aerodromes can be registered as assets of community value, triggering protections. Now, I think a couple of gliding sites have done this, and that might be worthwhile investigating for a number of the GA aerodromes. I know there is always this sort of problem between who owns the aerodrome, and in some cases, like Stapleford, for example, where, as we know, John Chicken died recently, and may he rest in peace. Whether that will then attract another round of developers looking to turn the airfield into housing is something which is quite a possibility, and it's very difficult to stop owners of aerodromes from selling them. But where aerodromes are owned by local authorities, we can take more positive action, I feel. And the last thing is, you can always go for a judicial review, but again, all of these things cost quite a lot of money. So I find it very difficult to talk about saving aerodromes when the GA community itself doesn't really roll its sleeves up in many instances. And I remember a great cartoon that was published in the LAA magazine, or as it was then, the PFA magazine, where it showed all the anti-aerodromes pulling the tug-of-war rope on one side and just 2 or 3 people pro the aerodrome on the other. And I think that is what exists today. We don't tend to get involved in local aerodromes unless they're our local aerodrome, when all of us should be getting involved with the fight across the UK to protect aerodromes. Whether you fly there or not, whether you ever visit there or not, these are important national assets, and we've got to try and save them. Because once the aerodrome's gone, it's gone for good. And if you want to try and open another aerodrome, it's mighty hard.
I think possibly, for ordinary pilots, how do they go about supporting GA in this respect? I mean, they can support an organisation such as AOPA or the LAA or any of the others, but how do they actually go about supporting another airfield? I mean, looking at, I know Sarah Deacon, and I know she keeps a fantastic Facebook page about the campaign to save the airfield, and the photos that keep coming up every week, every day, that is a decent, good weather day, the airfield is packed with airfields, with aircraft flying in and also the cafe there, which is a fantastic local resource. I think the support for Nottingham has been pretty strong. It's just that the land was sold to Vistry, a well-known property developer, housing developer, some time ago. They've decided now to cash in on their investment, and there's not a lot really that can be done at this stage.
But they don't have planning permission, Dave.
They don't.
No.
But it is in the this is what the process is at the moment, going through being in the local plan. And if it gets into the local plan, then they would almost certainly get planning permission.
Yeah, and that's what Sarah's trying to do in terms of ratcheting up the pressure on objecting to that plan.
Yeah.
But you won't get very far if you don't have the numbers to support it.
No.
And that's what we're trying to show right now. And it will be true for other aerodromes as well. And so therefore what I'm saying is, even if the aerodrome's not on your doorstep, but you hear about it, write a letter of support. Contact the local MP, say, we need to keep this, and point them at things like the MPPF, at the Town and Country Planning Act, and at the work that the previous government did in terms of, the need for a network of GA airfields. Now, as Blackadder might say, or Baldrick at least, I have a cunning plan. But it's not a plan that I think a lot of people in GA would sign up to. And that is, we've got to change the narrative around local aerodromes. Okay, and so if you look at what encourages this government, it's about innovation, growth, and jobs. And the platforms that are coming down the tunnel at a fairly quick speed are the unmanned aerial systems and the eVTOLs. And you may be aware of the NAT's proposal, Open Air. And when I had a look at that, and there was a lot of talk about it on the forums, I thought, hang on, let's flip this coin. Let's look at it in a different way. And I thought, well, if to get a network of airfields around the country, right, they have to have a strategic value in order to achieve that. And if each of those aerodromes around the UK became a UTM service provider, and that you could have some drone operations on some airfields and some eVTOL operations. For example, if you look at London area, Manchester, probably a few other cities around, the eVTOLs will need somewhere to live. Vertiports, forget about vertiports. They won't have the capacity. But GA aerodromes could be the place where these eVTOLs and drones operate out of, if we have a surveillance environment that provides the protection between manned and unmanned aircraft. And so I think if we start talking about how the GA world can be part of that solution going forward, with drone operations having hubs on airfields, logistic hubs, where they are ring fenced to not above 400 feet, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm just talking off the cuff here, but there could be a way in which we could provide that strategic value through that existing infrastructure. And that is the kind of thing I think that will, make the government's ears prick up and listen.
Yeah.
We've got to at least consider it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Ian.
And so, hey.
Sorry, Ian, you had a question.
I was just wondering. I was just trying to think where in the past, in sort of like recent memory, there's been a campaign that's really kind of yielded results and that's saved an airfield, if you like. And I guess maybe Wellesbourne is one of the biggest that I can think of. And I mean, there's still some stuff to go on Wellesbourne, and it could well be that I think many of us fear that the industrial stuff will be built before the new runway, and then all of us, there'll be reasons why that can't be done, and it might be lost after all. but certainly that's had some degree of success by bringing the local council on. And then the other thing is, if you have a pure, what I would call a pure piston GA airport, if you like, one that doesn't, if you take somewhere like Blackbush, I know they take jets at Blackbush, but effectively it's a piston GA airport. It's not Farnborough, it doesn't have any instrument approaches, that kind of thing. That they need a way of those airfields and those airports becoming sufficiently profitable so that they're not just being run as a hobby by the people who own them, because ultimately, and many airfields are sadly being run as kind of a little bit of a hobby. I'm not saying Blackbush is, but then when something happens, when the owner passes on or gets ill or something else, then the next generation perhaps say, well, actually, there's a chance for a quick buck here, and
yeah, you're right. So you'll probably remember the name Erinaceous.
Yeah.
And how they asset stripped Shoreham. And Shoreham was a good example of how the little businesses around the airfield were contributing to the running costs of the airfield. But then the property developer saw an opportunity to asset strip it. And I think they were trying to do the same with Fair Oaks, although I don't think they got as far as they got with Shoreham. But what's that other aerodrome on the south coast, down past Southampton?
Leon Solent.
Leon Solent. I mean, that was pretty much rejuvenated by engaging with the local councillors, you know. That was a good example, as the comment there says. And I guess we could learn from that activity down there and try and replicate it around other airfields. But the prime point is really that, you know, if we all love our flying, we need the infrastructure to support it, be it aerodromes or airspace, and we've got to engage a bit more as individuals to support the infrastructure.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to be fair, we see this quite a lot at FlyOut. Hardly a week goes by without there being some kind of threat or some kind of planning permission or some kind of issue. And if you are a pilot who flies principally for fun, it's not part of you're not part of the general aviation industry, if you like. You're not a manufacturer, magazine, or whatever. Then you really want to fly for fun. You want to enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
it's wearing the constant issues that you people kind of like, can I have some of your time and money to fight this one? Can I have some of your time and money to fight this one? And next week it's somebody else. And you can kind of see how people get to a point where you go, wow, there's just too much going on here. And I think that part resulted in the growth of strips as well, which is not a bad thing. But.
Well, I would perhaps use the example of people that go out and rattle a tin for cancer. You know, cancer's been around a long time, and it's only been through people donating to cancer charities that work has been done where we've seen the improvement in survival rates of cancer victims, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that, you know, this whole thing, you're right, it does become wearing, and it is like a cancer. But we can either fight it or we can just accept it. And I guess what I'm saying is that we have to look at ways in which we can fight it better, because successive governments, I'll just finish this by saying successive governments have always said local aerodromes, local decisions by local people. You know, and most of the people that keep their airplanes at airfields don't even live in the area, you know. So something's got to happen, and that's why I'm hoping that this new APPG with the GAAC may begin to raise the spectre of this and maybe get a different result, which only time will tell.
Well, I guess we have to, before we move on, just briefly, I think, you know, one of the things perhaps we have to figure out is how we can make it easy and easy and positive for people to contribute to that without it turning into a sort of weekly depressing thing. But so people can feel, you know, people can feel good about donating to a chosen charity of some kind. Many of us donate to various different charities for different reasons.
Indeed.
Making that easy and making that a positive experience is probably something we need to do more of somehow in general aviation to engage more people more of the time. But Dave, back to you.
Yeah, just that was fascinating talking to you, Martin, about that. But there are a couple of other questions we'd like to put to you. 100 low lead fuel.
Yeah.
What's the situation of that at the moment? It's dicey, isn't it?
Well, some good news and some bad news, maybe. Let me start with the good news, and that is that Shell have got an exemption granted to them up until 2032. And of course, you know that in the United States that they're looking for a fleet-wide drop-in replacement to happen by around 2030. So colleagues in the States tell me that they may or may not achieve that date, but the FAA would be required to move that deadline date further up the line if there is no fleet-wide solution. So,
sorry, just on that point about Shell and the exemption.
Yep.
Has that been adopted by the EU yet? Because
yes, yeah, it comes from the European Chemical Agency. Yeah.
Yep. And
that's
so that's definitely cleared until 2032.
Definitely cleared till 2032.
Right.
Yeah. So what I think some people kind of misunderstood was that the REACH, or the chemical agency in Europe, what they were banging on about was TEL.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the use of TEL, it was the storage and transportation. So oil companies like Shell had to prove to the European Chemicals Agency that they can actually store it and move it without causing harm to human beings. So I think that's why Shell have been able to get this exemption until 2032. And no doubt that will apply to other fuel companies as well. So we've got a little bit of breathing space, and therefore if the Americans do come up with a fleet-wide solution, then obviously that will find its way around other parts of the globe. Now, somebody that I know is in the fuel industry said we already have the replacement for 100 LL. The reason they're not bringing it forward right now is because it's more expensive than 100 LL. And so until the politicians ban 100 LL, they will have to keep it in production, because otherwise people's assets are going to disappear into thin air. They'll be worth nothing if they ban it.
You could say that about what happened in the car industry, though. In the car industry, they were faced with compulsory unleaded fuel, and they had to make technical changes to the car engines, and those car engines, particularly in classic cars, they've had to go through a whole regime of having changes made to the engine to burn unleaded. You cannot get leaded fuel. Surely that's going to happen in aviation as well.
Well, cars were able to put additives into the fuel tanks, and they kind of overcome that. But it's very different for aviation. It's not just the fuel; it's the fuel tanks, the fuel lines, and then the interaction with altitude as well. So the big problem is around the high performance engines, because of course we've got UL 91, and if you look on the AOPA website, anybody can go to it. You can put your aircraft registration in, and you'll be able to see if your aircraft engine is capable of using UL 91. The problem with UL 91 is not many airfields supply it, because they've stored it, and they found that aircraft owners don't want to spend another 20-30% more in the price of fuel to put UL 91 in when they can get 100 LL cheaper. So I can fully understand the economics of why people don't want to spend more on fuel than they have to. So until the politicians ban 100 LL, we're going to see a slow take up on UL 91, and fingers crossed for a US solution to the to the 100 LL.
Okay, so
You know,
we're running out of time.
it's complicated. No, go on.
Yeah, we are running out of time, Martin. Unfortunately, should have had longer with you. But
Yeah.
there is one last area which I hesitate to go into, but Ian's put it on the list, and that is: do you think the CAA has made the most of the post-Brexit, post-EASA era?
No, they have been very slow. Incidentally, the CAA staff levels have doubled since we left the European Union. You might remember CAP 2146. If you don't, you can look up afterwards. And in there were 3 projects that the CAA committed to. One you will probably be aware of, which is the simplification and rationalisation of flight crew licensing, which is due to hit the streets in October, we're told. The second project was the simplification and rationalisation of GA airworthiness maintenance regulations. And the third one was CAA medical requirements and benefits. So I think about 3 months ago, I spoke to the CAA about what they were doing with regards to the maintenance and airworthiness regulations. And they said, well, we've produced a book, aren't we good? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of actually running a more detailed project in looking at where they could make improvements and offer some simplification to airworthiness and to the maintenance requirements, I was told we do not have the resources, and we do not have the manpower, and we've basically dropped it. And my response to the chief exec was, when were you going to tell us? Oh, didn't we tell you? No, you didn't. So, I think, the airworthiness and maintenance requirements is a really, really important area. We have problems with licensed aircraft engineers, in as much as they're not really out there. Talking to various maintenance organizations, they feel that they price their work at a level that the owners are willing to pay. And they're saying to us, well, owners should be prepared to pay more. But then we come back to the fact that you're dealing with people who are flying for fun, and they're using their spare cash to fund their hobby. So there's not a lot of money out there. And now that the CAA have dropped this proposal, we're talking to them again about what we as an organization might be able to do in terms of looking at how things like using AI might be able to help to reduce the level of bureaucracy, lower the cost of maintenance. But that's really embryonic at this stage. We have a maintenance working group, and we have the CAA involved with us on that. And this is something we only just kicked off at the last meeting. And we did that because we know the CAA told us they don't have the manpower or resources to even look at it. So that's quite difficult. And also, the only thing that's come out of the medical department in recent times is the fact that people are now being required to undergo more ECG tests. And if they are taking any kind of blood pressure medication, they're being required to undergo stress ECG tests. This is costing pilots, hundreds of pounds, if not thousands of pounds. And we've seen pilots say, you know what, time to give up. I've had enough now. This is costing me far too much money. I'm stopping my flying. And only this evening, I saw a circular from my colleagues in AOPA that EASA are going down the same road. They're changing the medical requirements or tightening them, I should say. I haven't been able to see all the detail yet, but that's something that they are planning to implement. And at ICAO level, there is a discussion going on as well on a raft of medical areas where the ICAO standards are being looked at in terms of tightening up from mental illness through to blood pressure, cardiovascular, you name it. So this is something that's going to keep us busy in the future as well. The last bit, because I know we're pushed for time, but I wanted to say because it's important. It's about a report that happened last year into the CAA and the efficiency of the CAA by a chap called Newman. Okay, and they looked at the CAA's governance structures, funding, and the use of public money. Now, this is a major change. The CAA's fees and charges are now deemed to be a use of public money. And this is important because use of public money falls under the gambit of the Treasury. So no longer will the aviation minister sign off the CAA's fees and charges in a coming period. It'll be a Treasury minister. Into the bargain, use of public money and Treasury rules do not permit cross subsidies. The GA department receives about 1.4 million in cross subsidies from other schemes in the CAA each year. And although the CAA have confirmed that they are not going to be looking at changing that this year, next year they will be looking at this in more detail. So we'll have to see how that shapes up, but it could mean higher payments to the CAA for the privilege of having a license, a rating, or a certificate. So that's not good news. And the other bit of bad news, we might as well give you this while I'm on a roll, is that if you've been following the airspace modernisation, one of the discussions that they had recently was around the design entity, who designs the airspace. And they want to come up with a single design entity. And they looked at, should it be the CAA, should it be NATS, or should it be A and other? Well, NATS and the CAA said, well, it won't be A and other because they will just strip us of all our staff. The CAA can't do it because it's a regulator, so it's going to fall to NATS. And within that debate as well, there are some paragraphs in there pointing back to the Transport Act of 2000 about the user pay principle. And although I've written to NATS and the CAA, I've not had a response. And it's about my concerns that somehow that more airspace users are going to end up paying for the privilege of NATS redesigning the airspace. They plan to start with the Southeast and London, and if that pans out well, they're going to then move it out across the whole country. So we could end up having to contribute for airspace modernisation and changes to airspace that we do not benefit from. Because as we all know, NATS's main customer is the airlines. Least we forget that 46% of NATS is owned by the airline group. So that's another particular concern that I have right now.
Right. Well, we have run out of time, Martin. I'm sorry to say.
Sorry.
But that's quite a lot to take in on one evening.
Yeah, I was maybe ambitious to go for 3 subjects, but three seems like a great number, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we could probably, to be honest, we could probably cover each one of those just on its own. Maybe we'll do that at some point in the future. So apart from that, I'm just going to end up on a positive note. Apart from this weekend, the weather is getting better. The days are getting longer. We can get out there, we can fly, and we can get fuel at least till 2032. So that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah,
there you go.
So at this point, I'm going to say, because we are running out of time and I've done a poor job of managing that, Martin, thank you very much for your time tonight. And we're now going to transition into a speedy fantasy hangar and then move on. So thanks again. And are you going to be at Aero, Friedrichshafen? Or not?
Yeah, I'll catch you there.
I'll catch you there. I look forward to that. Martin, thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome.
Cheers.
So, partly in honour of Rob Hughes, and partly because we did have a news story about an electric seaplane, but it's dead in the water. This week, we chose a microlight seaplane from the classifieds. So who is first?
You are.
Oh, okay. I am. So I have gone for a very, very pretty 2014 Sea Ray Elite, a 2-seat amphibious flying boat. The Elite is powered by a 115 horsepower turbocharged Rotax, has a full glass cockpit and luxurious cabin. This particular one has never been in assault and has been hangared. The canopy can be opened in flight, and there's a splash guard to keep your fancy seats dry. If you like the look of it, it could be yours for about £90,000. It's in the US, but and you would be in good company. Richard Buck is a fan of Sea Ray. In Travels with Puff, he describes his adventures flying from Florida to Washington State in one. And Michael Smith, who was a guest on the live stream last year, flew a Sea Ray, but a bigger one, around the world in 2015.
Yeah.
Not a bad one. That last picture was Joe Fournier, used to be flyer safety editor. We were flying one from the factory. If I could zoom in, which I can't, you'll see that Joe is not looking like at his happiest at that particular point in time. We won't go into quite why, but never mind. So there you go. So, is it Dave, I think?
I've gone for an unfashionable choice. This is the Aero Volga Bore. There's a picture coming up. There it is, yeah. And I think it's actually a very nice looking machine. You can see this one is wearing a Canadian registration, or the 51st status it's going to be soon. I spoke. This aircraft has turned up at Aero Friedrichshafen a few times, and I remember talking to the pilot who had flown it from the factory in Russia. This is when they could do that, and he said there are a lot of rivers and lakes in Russia, so it makes sense, and not a lot of runways other than those used by the military. So it's a nice looking aeroplane. It's quite tough. It did become available in Canada, as you can see, but unfortunately, I learned this afternoon that the chap who set up as the agent is no longer with us. In other words, he's died.
Did he fall out of a high window?
Yeah.
Did he fall out of a high window?
Well, I don't know actually. I don't know how he died, but I know his company's no longer there because he's no longer with us.
But let's go back to the picture again for a second. So you see, that reminds me of that scene in Alien when the thing bursts out of the body with with a propeller on the front.
Right. Okay.
Lovely.
Yes.
Wow.
Who's next?
Wow. Okay, it's me next. It's me. I went for a slightly different look here. There you go. This is something called the Merlin Lex, Part 103. Ultralight in the US. Part 103 basically means no license, no maintenance, no regulations, just build it, do what you want kind of thing. It's like the SSDR version. It is a single seat. I've actually flown a Merlin, but it was on wheels. This one's got some Aeromarine 750 floats on, which I think the floats are quite relatively expensive, but you can buy the whole kit enough to go flying, apart from the floats, for something like $31,000. That includes engine, avionics, and everything else, which is like cheap as chips.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The floats aren't. I think the floats are probably add about another 50% to that. I thought that was a bit of fun. So there you go. That was my one. How about you, Johnny?
So I've gone for a TR3000. I've kind of cheated because I thought I'd found one on floats for sale, but I couldn't find it again. So I found a normal one for sale, and then you just buy the floats. But that is not a bad looking aeroplane, is it?
It's not a bad looking airplane, to be honest. No, it looks a little bit like a Cessna, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a baby 182 on floats.
Like a baby 182. It's not a bad looking airplane at all. I have to say, I am sad to report that, despite my things, midlife PPL, Ed wins. That wheelie bloke, Ed wins. I mean, come on. What's all that about? Oh, he's a good start, Annabelle. And then we've got Edabelle. Edabelle wins. Cat Burnham went for an air cam. Yep, not a bad choice at all, the air cam. Another Ed wins because all of us are rubbish. Johnny wins, Annabelle wins, Annabelle. Oh, I like all of these, please. Everybody, there you go, Dave. That's nice, isn't it? Looks like a 172. Oh, a couple of others. What we got? Come on, Ed, show us a couple. Well, a couple on floats wouldn't work, would it? Because it's not an ultra, right? Isn't it? We can't have that. Icon 85 for Ed Hicks. So he is trying to get in, but lots to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So, to be honest, there are lots and lots of Annabelles, although there's also a bit of a Johnny. So I'm gonna call it for, what is it, Edabelle? I'm gonna call it for Edabelle.
Hey, thank you.
Well done. You win this week. Dave, we got any events?
Yep. Obviously, on Saturday, there's Pilot Careers Live in London. Next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, there are Gasco safety evenings, one at Oxford, one at Rochester. Saturday the 29th, there's an aero jumble at Spanhoe. And then the flyings begin on the Saturday, the 5th of April, with the gyro flying at Deanthorpe and the spring fling at Brighton.
I'm just going to add in there, I think I saw an email somewhere from someone saying that the aero jumble at Spanhoe has been cancelled due to lack of stall holders. But
right, okay, I hadn't got that.
Just in case I've got that wrong, double check it.
Yeah,
I think I saw it being postponed.
Postponed to a date as yet unannounced.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, right.
Not been cancelled. It's just been postponed to. But check it. Yeah, there's a couple of other people saying that as well. So, yeah. Oh, I said, Ed, we'll give them the last word. I'll leave them alone for a week, and they all have.
Rude.
I don't think
Last
so,
time I stand in for you, Ed.
Yeah, and next week you'll be standing in for me, won't you, Edabelle?
Yes, I will. I've got my rant ready.
Jolly good. Right. In that case, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, share the link, do what you can. It'll be brilliant, and have a fun weekend flying. Take care and look at the weather because it all looks a bit dodgy. So there you go. Have a good one. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, this video is sponsored by us, the Fly Club, and if you're not a member already, we'd love for you to join.
Members get access to all of our content, our free landing fees every month, exclusive webinars and much, much more.
It costs just £5 per month to become a member, so head on over to flyer.co.uk/membership or click the link in the description below.
It's a proper good deal.
It's a bargain.